Whenever I've reviewed old school classics here on this show, it always seems like I've fallen on the negative side rather than the positive, and though I have been chastised for holding such opinions, I still stand by what I've said. Yes, Akira was a groundbreaking technical achievement, but it's also a sloppy adaptation and a narrative mess. Grave of the Fireflies is still more interested in telling a sad story rather than a good story, and Perfect Blue's handling of dissociative identity disorder is suspect at best. Though I have said plenty of nice things about classic anime, like with Ghost in the Shell and Ninja Scroll, I still get angry emails and comments about these particular episodes, especially Akira. And you know what? I understand it. I completely understand why people would be genuinely upset with me, or anyone else for that matter, speaking bad about films they like. Ours is a culture that tends to identify themselves by what they like. We're Whovians, Browncoats, Trekkies, Bronies, Potterites, Sherlockians, Tolkienites, and any other derivation of fandoms. And, as such, whenever our hobby or passion is talked bad about, we feel, vicarious as it is, insulted by it, as if liking our hobby somehow makes us lesser in their eyes. That's pretty much why I don't agree with this mindset. I mean, sure, I like Star Trek just fine, but I would never call myself or identify myself as a Trekkie. I like what I like, and you like what you like, and we shouldn't feel bad about that. And conversely, we shouldn't feel insulted when someone doesn't like what we like or make fun of it, granted if they're not demonstrably malicious about it. So why am I bringing all this up? Well, today's subject is a venerated title fondly remembered by old taco everywhere. Fist of the North Star, a movie and series that I really genuinely like, despite it being kind of silly and dumb. Fist of the North Star began as a manga that ran in the 80s, and it spawned an entire media franchise that included television series, OVAs, films, video games, and a live-action adaptation starring Malcolm McDowell. Yeah, we'll get to that little title in good time. But today, we're looking at the very first movie, released in 1986 and ported over in 1991. And it just may be the grandpappy of all ultra-violent anime. Yes, I like this film. And yes, I know that seems hypocritical of me considering how hard I've come down on violent anime before. But if you give me 30 or so minutes, give or take a few commercial breaks, I'll explain myself. First off, can I just say how thrilled I am that I'm actually reviewing a film for a change? None of that Sin the Movie shit where it's barely an hour long, or just some combined OVA that they tried to hawk as a feature film. I'm looking at you, Armitage. The film itself opens in a nice montage of beautiful scenery, idyllic landscapes, and peaceful cities. How long until it goes completely buttfuck? Jesus. Wait. I think I've seen that somewhere before. Oh God! This is supposed to be a happy review, isn't it? Well, the world is now a wasteland where packs of marauding berserkers pillage to survive, and the weak live in fear that they should be their next target. Seeing as how there's little else to do in a wasteland but wander, our hero Kenshiro and his lady love Yuria search for any signs of life. You must forgive this dub. It was made during a time when westernizing names was considered the norm.
Huh? Shin. The time has come. Julia is mine now.
So, everyone has to fight for clean food and water, but apparently there's enough shoulder pads, winged helmets, and battle axes to go around. Also, can you tell that the franchise was inspired by the Road Warrior? It's so subtle, isn't it? Shin tells Kenshiro that the rules that they used to live by no longer apply, and decides to play alpha and take his woman. Kenshiro, alpha himself, doesn't take this lying down.
Perhaps that was true once, but now rules are meaningless. Defend yourself!
That. What the fuck is that? I've seen it in kung fu flicks, I've seen it in plenty of bad anime, and I still don't know what that thing is called, but everyone knows it! It was a Ninja Scroll, Sword for Truth, Samurai Showdown, Street Fighter. How could something so ubiquitous have no name? Having wounded Kenshiro, Shin continues to torture him to cajole Yuria into being his waifu against her will, as is the situation with all waifu. I'm looking at you, Vocaloid kids. Hatsune doesn't love you! It takes Shin punching the Big Dipper into Kenshiro's chest for Yuria to finally relent, because leaving him to die in the desert after consenting to being Shin's new cocksock is preferable to killing him. As some of you have no doubt noticed, the footage kind of shifts from contemporary DVD quality to bootleg VHS. Well, this is a restoration job, but it looks like they didn't have the original master to work with. All the shots that have no gratuitous violence are rendered fine. They look borderline HD, but every shot of heads exploding or flesh being pierced looks god-awful. Upscaling can only do so much to future-proof your existing DVD collection, and without a master it can do even less. But I didn't make this review just to bash Fist of the North Star. Yes, there is plenty to make fun of in the movie, but it's also a prime reason why I give no quarter in my reviews. The majority of emails, comments, and tweets that I get from fans of the anime that I review are usually backhanded apologies explaining that the quality of Enter Anime Here was just indicative of the time. Yes, stilted scripts and wooden acting were par for the course, but that was a shitty par. Just because something is average doesn't mean it's good. It just means in the middle. What we have here in Fist of the North Star is a 90s period dub with a 90s period script and 90s period production quality, and it is nearly airtight. Sure, the actor playing Kenshiro is pretty... there.
For you, Lin, what's inside is as valuable as anything on Earth. The seeds of new life. I know of only two people special enough to make them bloom, and one of them is you.
But recent evidence suggests that maybe that's how the character should be played.
My thumbs are now embedded in 2 of your body's 708 power points, and you will die 7 seconds after I remove them. I suggest you use those 7 seconds to reflect on your sins.
You're not helping, franchise. But nearly everyone else in the cast is really surprisingly good. The actor playing Shin especially stands out. He has that slimy, oily charisma that his role calls for, and he hits every note perfectly. A well-done character that you love to hate.
Fascinating, isn't it, how changeable women are? One minute they say they want you, and the next minute they say they want someone else. That's because they only want who they've got until someone better comes along. But of course, she is right.
Combined with the fact that the script is overly explanatory, makes the abilities of the actors more astounding when they squeeze that much emotion from it. Credit where credit's due. Everyone involved during the localization of Fist of the North Star really cared about the end product, and their effort is admirable. The key word here, people, is standards. Fist of the North Star has them, Bao didn't. End of fucking lecture. Having been soundly beaten and left to die, all Kenshiro has to remember is Lady Love is a small bag of seeds. And, as if that weren't enough, this entire exchange was witnessed by Ken's 2 brothers, Jaggy and Rao, who don't exactly share Ken's pious disposition. So Jaggy just winds up chucking Ken off a cliff, and Rao kills their master when he refuses to name him the new Fist of the North Star.
You silly old fool. Stop hiding behind your metaphors and metaphysical fantasies. The Fist of the North Star is dead.
Your point?
I just love how unaffected their master is over news of Ken's death. It's like he just told him that they're having chicken for dinner.
I am the Fist of the North Star. Show me the power. Prove that I'm right.
What? What kind of screaming speech to the heavens is that? I can do better than that. Here I stand, your slave, a poor, weak, infirm, and despised old man. But it is I who call you servile ministers, who hath with 2 pernicious daughters have high engendered battle against a head so old and white as this. Oh, 'tis foul.
Not that good, guys.
But what kind of hero would Kenshiro be if he were knocked out in the first act of the story? So, after some indeterminate amount of time, he comes back with the mother of all vengeances, raising himself from the fucking earth like Lazarus after hearing the telepathic cry for help of a young girl named Lynn. Motherfucker walks through a goddamn skyscraper to save a little girl. Walks through it. Ladies and gentlemen, the man with 7 scars, the savior of Century's End, Kenshiro.
I'm cutting your head. I'm cutting your head.
Yeah, Kenshiro does not fuck around. He's the champion of the downtrodden and the meek, but that doesn't mean he has to be a pussy about it. Sometimes the permanent solution is the best solution.
Ready? Now!
Dumbass, you just saw him lift a dude with one hand and crush his head like a paintball pellet. What the fuck makes you think you have any chance? Because you got a knife?
If we're gonna go that way, you'll need a bigger knife.
10 will get you 20. That clip replaces Paul Hogan's in the next 6 months.
Holy shit!
Jesus shit Christ, Kenshiro makes Red Brown look like Charlie Brown. Can we officially change his name to Kenshiro motherfucker? To thank Kenshiro for saving Lynn, Bat here takes him to rest in a bombed-out shelter. But it isn't long before Ken's badass sense is tingling, and he has to save the day again and make more chunky salsa. Okay, not quite as cool as Heihachi catching an axe in his teeth, but it's up there. Of course, Kenshiro cleaves his way through the ankle biters before unleashing the full power of his beard on the main baddie. Of course, if he had the iron fist of the nose hair, then the battle would have been over by now.
That's right. In fact, you're already dead.
Same difference. With the big baddie gone, all that's left for Kenshiro to do is to complete the Jesus trifecta. He lays on hands Lynn to cure her muteness before he wanders back into the wasteland, looking for more asses to kick, and more lines to deliver monotonously.
One question. Satisfy my curiosity. That statue in the town square, who's it supposed to be?
Ken seems to have wandered into a village where berserkers have taken over and forced the town people into obeying a fake Fist of the North Star. Figuring out pretty quickly that it's probably Jaggy using his moniker, Ken sets out for some sweet, sweet vengeance on his brother. And he won't be alone. Say hello to Ray.
Hey, these belong to you?
It's like Robert Rodriguez directed an 80s anime. It seems that Ray here is after Jaggy for kidnapping his sister, believing him to be the actual Fist of the North Star. So him and Ken pull a double dragon and start busting heads and bursting guts.
Nice try, guy.
Say your goodbyes, lard ass, because you're already dead.
You see? What did I tell you? Still in one piece, good as new.
I keep waiting for me to get tired of this, but it just gets better. It just seems impossible that the concept of guy who's so strong he could punch a dude and make them explode has lasting appeal. But goddamn does this film play its hand perfectly. You never get tired of the fight scenes, and each one seems to top the next in terms of gory display. This has to lose steam sometime. I mean, where do you go from Blood Geyser? The best thing that could have possibly happened to Kenshiro was that nuclear war happened and turned the world into a wasteland. Because otherwise, he would have been stuck in the real world with no practical means to use his powers. It'd be like if a zombie survivalist freak finally got his Romero zombie outbreak. Like the pathetic coward he is, Jaggy tries to turn the tide by threatening Ray's sister Ailey. But Ken plays him like a fool and goads the idiot into attacking him directly. Realizing that the fight is pretty one-sided, Jaggy finally admits his involvement with Shin and Yuria, and it's downright Shakespearean.
Julia made me swear not to tell you, but I want what's best for her. After all, I love her like she was my own sister. In her heart of hearts, you're the one she's in love with. She doesn't care about him anymore, believe me. Besides, who's going to protect her? In times like these, only the strongest can protect the ones they love. Ken's not as strong as you are. You're the one who can keep her safe. You're the one she loves.
What Iago is to Othello, and what Wormtongue is to Theoden, Jaggy is to Shin. Yes, I am comparing Shakespeare and Tolkien to Fist of the North Star. Well, after hearing that bit of exposition, no way does Ken let Jaggy live, and does what Ken does best. Make him explode. Meanwhile, Ray has been cleaning house and not giving a flying fuck while he does. He looks like he's doing Tai Chi in the park, for Christ's sake, and dudes fall apart like they're made of Play-Doh. He finally rescues his sister, but after years of constant cockmongering and enslavement, she knows no other life, and Ray falls into despair. Fortunately, Ken is Jesus, but even his Mary Sue powers are no match for her unwillingness to see and come to terms with what happened to her. But, seemingly out of nowhere, Bat and Lynn arrive to show Ken that one of the flowers that Ken left with Lynn is beginning to bud, and this simple sight forces Ailey to see. But that's just child's play, because now the big boy shows up. The most baller badass in the wasteland, Rao the Conqueror. How do we know he's a badass? He's on a horse. This guy is so badass that if money were still worth something, he'd wipe his ass with hundos in front of poor people. While pissing on a Neo Geo. While Rao is out conquering, as his name implies.
Listen, give up while you still can, or every one of you men shall die, I promise you.
Just walk away, and there will be an end to the horror.
Ken finally decides to set out and look for Shin to reclaim Yuria, now that he knows where he is. And watch out, folks, when Ken feels passionate, mountains move.
I love her, Ray. You can't imagine how much.
I will proclaim my love for Yuria on the tallest mountain. Hey, world! I love Yuria! Really?
I believe that your separation from Julia must be linked to the ultimate fulfillment of your destiny. Fate's plan, in which we must all play a part. I have a hunch that your role's an important one. I wouldn't be surprised if the world needs you, even more than you need Julia.
I really love that line. This movie isn't known for being subtle, so when a line like that comes into play, it just blindsides you. And Ray brings up a good point. In this world where the only way to survive is to be the strongest, having someone like Ken fight for those that cannot fight means more to the world than his own need to rescue Yuria. He's jeopardizing the future, or at least what's left, for his own goal of saving his woman, which, in no uncertain terms, is selfish. Yes, Yuria is not in immediate danger, and she has it relatively good, all things considered. But, like Ken, she's unwilling to accept what happened and pines for Ken, placing her own life in danger. This is the downfall of any classic hero. Their own self-interest. What's my point? Superman should not have Lois Lane, and Spider-Man's school of thought needs to be condemned. News of Rao's conquering reaches Shin, who ain't fucking having it. But the shit really hits the fan when it's revealed that Jaggy has been killed and that Ken is alive and well, spurring Yuria to finally make her escape attempt, but winds up running right into Rao, who isn't exactly the most gracious of winners.
Rao, I presume?
It's all mine, and your woman, too.
Huh? You came a long way just to steal a woman, Rao.
Excuse me, asswipe? Who's the little shit that stole that woman in the first place? Apparently, Rao is the master of the delayed reaction fight scene, because immediately after initiating a fight, we cut to Ken making his way through the ruined remains of Shin's fortress, just to find Shin dying, but still able to repent.
Where have they gone?
Away. My love has gone away. Out of the light. Into the darkness.
Out of the light? What do you mean?
The dungeons of Cassandra are the deepest pits of darkness in the world.
Cassandra? Why would he take her there?
He's built a fortress over the ruins of the old city. They say it's impregnable and the dungeon's escape-proof.
I love how Rao left Shin alive, essentially for the sole purpose of baiting Ken to find him. And take the bait he does. Meanwhile, Ray is traveling along with Bat and Lin, but oddly enough, not Ailey. I mean, the guy went out of his way to try and save her from sexual slavery, but once that's done, I guess fuck her, she's on her own. Lin spots Yuria in the promenade with Rao, and decides to try and break into her dungeon to try and cheer her up with the potted plant.
That palace is huge. How will we find her?
Look, it's obvious she's a prisoner, right? And prisoners are kept in the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's one thing I know, it's that every dungeon has a secret entrance that someone like me can get into.
What?
Hey you, worthless peon of an adventurer!
Who, me?
Who else am I talking to, shitstain? Have you tried to inseminate your sworn enemy's impregnable fortress, but to no avail?
Actually, I think you're confusing metaphors here.
Well, worry no longer, you slack-jawed cum-dumpster!
Why do you keep talking about semen?
What you need is a dick, a spine, and a heart! But since we can't sell you that, you'll just have to buy the Spoony One's Dungeoneering for Assholes! His new 73-point method for conquering any and all dungeons, except for the Prison of Love. Is that moat too deep to cross? No problem. That moat has to lead somewhere deep within the dungeon, where there's a door unguarded, unlocked, with a big old health potion with your name on it.
Why would there be a health potion down in...
Who cares? Do you need to transmagnify yourself into a rat to get through that crack in the wall?
Well, that would be the best course of action.
Yeah, if you're a faggot!
I really don't appreciate that kind of language.
You should have noticed that that bit of the wall was a different color from the rest of the wall! And luckily for you, there's some C4 right by your feet!
That's somewhat anachronistic, because you're talking about magic and dungeons, and those are usually found in medieval settings.
These tips and many more in Dungeoneering for Assholes! Act fast and call now, and I won't hunt you down and punch you in the dick, which you clearly don't have because you got thwarted by a goddamn building! Open your mouth, say ah, and prepare to swallow the steaming load from the genius that is the Spoony One's +5 mithril cock!
You're gay, right? That's what this is about, isn't it?
Where does my show go where I can't follow? Spotting the plant in Uria's possession, Rao fucking crucifies her in front of everyone and demands to know who had the audacity to give her hope. Ray, being the noble son of a bitch he is, takes Lynn's place and does battle with Rao. Up until now, the movie has been pretty 80s. But can it crank it up to 811? This montage is Pat Morita sipping on a Bloody Mary made by Chuck Norris, served to him by Steve Guttenberg, while Ronald Reagan tells Gorbachev to tear down this wall. Monchichis. Ken manages to arrive just in time to hear Ray's dying words, that should he pursue Rao, they would only wind up killing each other, and what point would that serve? Well, Ken being Ken, is never one to pass on a fight. And the two have the mother of all god battles that nearly decimates the entire city. Ken is knocked out, and it looks like Rao is about to strike the final blow. And we finally get to the major failing of the movie. Its ending. Lynn pops in out of nowhere and tries to convince Rao to let Ken live, reminding Rao of the words that their father and master said to him, about power without perception. For some reason, this is reason enough to let Ken live, and remark that Lynn has something to do with Earth's future and Ken's destiny of protecting her. This sudden heel turn is completely out of character for Rao when you consider everything he's done. But I understand what the movie was trying to do. It was trying to tie a parallel to nuclear war and Ken and Rao's relationship, that neither side can win and everyone loses. While I have to commend the film for attempting some cinematic literacy, did we actually need this in our film about guys punching people until they explode? And that's why the violence in Fist of the North Star works, because it doesn't attempt to try to be anything more than juvenile. When you get right down to it, the characterization of Kenshiro is that of a child attempting to explain to his friends how strong Bruce Lee is in his movies. Everything is exaggerated, not to prove some satirical point, but rather to emphasize the cartoonish nature of the story and action scenes. You can't tell me I'm supposed to reflect on the nature of nuclear war when your main character kicks a fat dude's stomach until it erupts Heinz ketchup. I will say that I like the idea of Ken losing track of Yuria at the end of the film because he had to fight Rao, thereby being blinded by the violence that has consumed him. But this kind of plot doesn't serve anything more high-minded than what the film was portraying for the first two acts. Everything was broad and fanciful, theatrical even, with characters screaming to the heavens and godlike battles. This is not meant for nuance, and attempting would undermine what has been built. I won't say that the ending ruins the movie, but it does keep it from being an irrefutable classic. The strength of a story is not in its target, but in its aim. I love Fist of the North Star, but I can admit that it has its faults. Still, I'd recommend this film to anyone who is nostalgic for 80s action films, not just otaku. If you remember the days when heroes were broad-chested and had biceps the size of cantaloupes, then you owe it to yourself to see Fist of the North Star. Well, that was a lot of fun. And I wish I could say our next topic will be just as interesting as Fist of the North Star, but sadly that isn't the case. Till next time.